Hey everybody, this is AI with Dr. Craig Hansen, and I'm delighted to have Matt Abraham with us, who's the founder of TeachersBuddy right here in New Zealand. Hey Matt,
Hey, how are you?
thank you so much for doing this. Really appreciate you sharing your journey and what's going on right now.
My pleasure.
Yeah, tell us the origin story of you.
Well, so most of I don't have a background in teaching, actually. I should say that up front. I'm not a teacher. My background is in tech, and most of my career has been in digital production in some form or another, mostly in and around advertising agencies, really, and their clients, and building out kind of creative user experiences
Mm,
for different brands. And it was kind of in the process of that I came across AI. I found that kind of when AI came on the scene about a year and a half ago, I suppose, from now, within about 3 months, probably about 60% of the work that I was getting through in brief form was had AI at least in the title in some way, shape, or form. Whether or not it actually had to do with AI or the brief was relevant for AI was another story, but it really was quite prevalent. And yeah, really within about 3 months, about 60% of the work I was doing kind of involved AI in some kind of way. And then it was as part of that journey that I started to think about, oh, what this is a really, I mean, it was obviously such a transformational um, advance, a transformational jump in from what we'd been able to do previously. And it's so significant. And in building the Teachers Buddy tool, to the extent that we have, it just wasn't something that we would ever have been able to do before AI came on board. Like the level of data and the source material we'd have had to collate it would have taken years and years to
mm.
put it together.
Yeah, amazing opportunities. Amazing how it can connect though, because I've seen with using Teachers Buddy and doing workshops and other staff in different schools having a go and coming back and saying, Craig, did you know it can do this? There's all
Yeah.
these capabilities that I would not have thought that we could just create simply, and not easily, but simply with AI.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And I'm coming across that as well. And even with people using Teachers Buddy, like I'm constantly talking to people who are using it in ways I didn't realize, and it's giving me new ideas to go, oh, well, maybe we can add this to the tool in a certain way because they're using it to create a series of material, and then we can enhance it with other tools for them to complement the material they've generated. It happens all the time.
Mm. So there's a great suite of tools in there, and that's I think last night when we were doing a part of our AI for Education Masters program, and on the weekend, the ideas that really captured the different educators and the educational leaders who were seeing your demonstration, lots of different things caught their attention.
Yeah, it's a real variety. So I mean, like the most we've got three tiers of platform of availability of the tools on Teachers Buddy. So we've got a free tier, and then we've got an individual paid tier, and then we've got a schools tier. Where you can have multiple licenses for your teachers in the schools tier. But in the free tier, we've made available 10 tools, and lesson plan is pretty much the hero tool for everybody. Just generating that, like it's by far and away the most prolifically used tool. But yeah, there's just so many different things that people like. So lesson plan is the most common. We've got to mark a student's work is probably maybe number 2 or 3 down the list, and all the way down. But you're right, like people just hone in on different things. We've had people hone in on things like the permission slip generator, which is and it's a permission slip generator is one of those things you never really think about, but it's, as a teacher, you didn't sign up to create a permission slip. It's not something it's that kind of irritating administrative job that actually AI just does so quickly and well. And it just ticks a thing off the list that you just don't have to think about.
I didn't do a 4-year degree just to be creating these.
No, exactly right. Exactly right. Or, necessarily even spend all of your time marking or all of your time kind of generating material. But I mean, the other thing that just AI offers is that enhancement of the material. Because I mean, even, and not just in teaching, in kind of everyday life, that ability to you kind of get an idea and you go down a certain, if you're creating material, you get an idea and you go down a certain path for creating the material, based on all of your experiences, all of your own experiences and what you've learned yourself and what you've read and all of that kind of stuff. And we do it in advertising as well. If we're creating material, it's always our own experiences. But what AI can offer, one of the I think the undersung things about AI is that level of kind of conversation that you can have with it, the analysis that it
Mm,
will do for you, and you can just the back and forth over the material and coming up with ideas as this kind of creative partner, and that exchange. And for students, that's just epic because it, in a classroom. Well, I was never very good in school, like so many people. I was a below average kind of student, could do better, but just always had questions that were irrelevant to the material that was being talked about. It would just spark things in my mind to hear a teacher saying it, and my mind would go off in different directions, like talking about whatever, and my mind would think, oh, wonder about Julius Caesar's sandals. What were they made of? What could they have been made of? How would that process have been? And AI, if you're going down those rabbit holes, can follow you as a student as just an always forgiving, never impatient discovery partner on your learning journey, and bring you back. And you can't ask a question, in a in a lesson. What were Julius Caesar's sandals made of? You'll get shut down by the teacher because they're trying to keep it, rightly so, because they're trying to keep it on track. You can't, and you're embarrassed to ask the question anyway. But AI can just follow you down this rabbit hole and allow you to explore the narrative that you want to explore, and open up your own sense of curiosity. And I think that's what I really feel like, if when I was a kid, that's what would have sparked me, just that level of curiosity. Because for me, school when I was a kid was just about learning by rote things, that I wasn't particularly interested in, but I
mm.
think I could have been interested in them had I been able to explore them in my own way. Yeah.
It was very gracious of you to speak into our NZQA approved fundamentals in AI education
Mm.
um, class last night, and have those participants hear and just really resonate with that patient, attentive, able to follow around down the track, search partner, research
Mm.
partner, create new knowledge partner that AI can be. And we did test a few tools and different tools and TeachersBuddy, and just having that opportunity for everyone right there live on the call was pursuing
Yeah,
a different line of questioning with it,
that's right. Yeah.
following down their own rabbit hole. And I can just imagine, a classroom teacher of 30 students going, okay, everybody, let's get back on track. Whereas the
Yeah.
AI is going, oh, have you thought about this question?
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. That encouragement to think more about it, not to stop your line of thought,
Mm.
but to keep going, keep exploring. Because that's how new ideas are formed. That's how new thinking, new writing, new creative material. That's how it happens.
When you're doing your commercial work, what are some of
Mhm.
the needs or some of the excitements that you see with business people, and particularly for smaller business people who go, wow, it can do that, and they're seeing the epiphany.
Yeah. So I think just demonstrations of so I've done lots of demonstrations in the commercial world. I just want to make sure I can talk about all of them, before I go down too far. But yeah, so I would do these presentations to corporates and to ad agencies, and I would ask the question, who's actually used ChatGPT before, and you get a smattering of hands that had gone up. This was last year. And then most of them you'd find out that most of them had used ChatGPT 3.5, so not the paid version, and
Mm,
they'd used it to write something like a poem or write a recipe, and they'd been significantly wowed by it, because it's pretty impressive just doing that. But
mm.
then, but then they'd put it down, they'd put it aside, and they hadn't related it back to their own jobs and their own work. And I think that's the key, is really, and even when I was doing it myself, it was actually a really good way to help me reflect on what is it I actually do? Like, what is my process of thinking? What are the if I had to boil it down, not getting distracted by the tools, because there's a million of them. There's a million AI tools out there that, and you can go down those rabbit holes just experimenting with the tools. But I find that's a distraction. Like focusing on the tools is the wrong thing to focus on, and getting excited about them. It was a really good point of self-reflection for me to go, what is it I do? And how can I compartmentalize that? And then how can AI assist with that? And
Mm,
so it was really in the generation of material. So I mean, I came up with the three things that I kind of categorized my thinking and my process and my outputs into were researching, creating, and processing. And I really kind of I it had kind of significant impact on the way I approached not just AI, but the work I was doing anyway. Just that that pause, going, what is it I do, and how would I categorize it? How would I explain it to someone in the different parts of it, um, and the ability to relate it back. And I think, without being too philosophical about it, like they're breaking those three down. I think AI has significantly changed the way in which we research things. So I think it's turned searching, what we've had for 20 or 30 years, is the ability to search for things using keywords with Google
mm,
or in apps or whatever it is. That's what searching has meant to us. Um, and I think it's completely flipped it on its head. So you put in a keyword normally in a search engine and you get some material that you're looking for, whether it be it for education or be it for any other industry that you're in. You get a list of material, a list of results based on your keywords, and it's layered in with ads. And then you get a list of resources that may or may not be relevant. And then you have to find, and even if you're looking for something like recipes, let's say, it's a headache because you look for a recipe for spaghetti and meat sauce, let's say, and you get a number of recipes. And even when you get to the websites, you have to scroll all the way down to the bottom of the actual websites for these recipes,
yeah,
through all of the ads just before you actually get to the recipe. It's a pain in the bottom. Um, and but with AI, if you ask it to give you a recipe, it will just go straight to the recipe and it will just give you it, like regardless. And then you can adjust it. And if it's giving you a spaghetti and meat sauce recipe and you want it a little bit spicier, and I don't have this in the fridge, substitute this with something else, and it will give you the answer directly. And the same with any research that you do, it will just give you the answer directly. So so it'll give you the answer to what were Julius Caesar's shoes made of, and it will give you that answer directly. And then
right.
it will, then you'll have to ask it, or you'll have to justify the citations. You can ask it for citations and give it to you like how it's coming up with those ideas. And so it's turned the idea of searching into researching. So you instead of putting keywords in and going through all the source material and then coming up with your own conclusions, you ask the fully articulated question, it gives you the answer, and then you can go and find the source material. And that's an important step. And it's an important step that I think we really need to acknowledge it with students as well, because they are able to do this. Like I've been in a number of kind of conferences around education, and teachers are really struggling with this, right? They're really struggling with, how do I address AI with my students and what is the right thing to ask for? And they're experimenting in different ways. And
Mm,
so I was in ones recently, and they're asking the students to cite the AI, just say where you've used ChatGPT kind of to formulate your argument. And they're not doing it at all. But I actually think that's the wrong thing to ask for. Citing ChatGPT is like, I don't know, it's like citing the internet. It's like, there's a million sources within that you need to be much more specific about it. So we need to be encouraging our students, if they're using AI, not just to cite that they've used AI
mm,
to get to the answer, but to find the citation, find the source material that AI is using. That's the key. And that's what leads to learning. That's what leads to that. It's just a different way around to do the same research.
mm.
But I think it's a good way around. Like, I think it's a good change.
Yeah, it is. I like with Gemini, when we're using
Mm,
Gemini, particularly the workspace version for schools, we can click after it gives us all the results. We can click at the
mm.
top and see the drafts, and then at the
Yeah.
bottom we can click the little Google icon, and it will actually help us understand the results, and it will color code what's in there, so we can see which is highly referenced and which is
Yeah.
minimally referenced and which ones don't have enough reference. And so that
Yeah,
allows you to go, okay, I need to check up on those particular areas. And that's great to actually model that live with students, that as educators and the leading learner in the class, we're actually going through that process. The same with Perplexity, that you actually
yeah,
have those references there where it summarizes all the knowledge, but you get the sources where it came from and you can go
that's right.
back.
Yeah, Perplexity is really good at it. Yeah,
It's quite
yeah. Oh,
powerful.
that's good. Yeah, very powerful. I think it's a really good way round. It's a really good paradigm shift because yeah, kids aren't going to be doing it in the same way. They're already not doing it,
Mm,
and so if we need to lean into it as educators to figure out the best, not just yes, we can use AI, but how do we use AI? What are the best uses of it?
mm,
And this is not it's not an easy process because it's constantly changing and there's constant distraction. There's constantly different tools out there. And I mean, like, I don't know if you know, but I mean, like ChatGPT really isn't even that used by students. My own kids don't really use ChatGPT. They use it. They use their social media apps, so they're directly communicating with AI bots within their social media app.
mm.
And so I mean, it's a very difficult thing to monitor, and it's a very difficult thing also to know what information is right and is wrong. But it's a really good way and a really good opportunity to educate students about how to find right material and wrong material and not finding sources, especially in this day and age anyway, even before AI, when there was so much misinformation on the internet anyway. There's so many sources that look credible but aren't at all.
Absolutely. I was looking at Elicit, which sounds really terrible, but it's actually means to get a response. Elicit, the AI-driven research website, and so I was looking at a
Right.
couple of terms around pedagogy and how things have changed, and the way that that Elicit works is it gives you all of the different citations and sources, and then you can tell it to give you the key findings, and it summarizes them, and then
Mm.
tell it to give you what are the most common methodologies used. So if you're new to an area of knowledge and you're trying to figure out what's the best way to pursue this, what's the best way to use a methodology or the most appropriate one, what are some of the major findings so I can actually make a new contribution to knowledge or test what they found, it's all summarized there for you. But one of the most interesting things is the way that the value of my research paper that I've published being cited 100 times is becoming less and less and less. And so
Mm.
academia is moving towards more, what are the more influential papers? So if my paper that I did and I published is being used in the literature review, cool, I get a tick for that. But if my response and my research and my findings are being used in the literature review section, and then it's being used in the discussion, and it might be used in the methodology, it's actually more
Yeah.
influential because it's helping guide the research and finding new knowledge. And so the influence scores are very different to the number of citations you might have. And so when I
Mm.
change the filters, I get a whole different list of types of literature that I could look at
Yeah.
and go, wow, this is really influential. Whereas this might be cited a lot, but it's not making a lot of difference out there. That's a real sea force change, I think.
Yeah. Fascinating. Yeah. Well, that's really great.
And only AI could do it because it has the power of being able to pull all this data together.
Yeah, well, that's right. Like I said at the beginning, like we just couldn't have done something like this previously.
Mm,
It would have been impossible. Like, and the fact that just out of the box, um, tools like ChatGPT or you know the source material have so much information, like so much base level
mm,
information. There'll be some training that we need to give it. So with TeachersBuddy, we've needed to in certain areas for things like curricula. We've had to train it on certain curricula where it didn't know
right.
as much as our investigations were, or what we were finding out wasn't. It didn't jibe with that, you know. So and it was filling in the gaps as well. So
Yeah.
it was quite dangerously filling in the gaps when it didn't know stuff, which is
But
I
also
think
makes sense.
actually yeah, yeah. Well, I think that's one of the most human things about it, right? Like it's just I mean
Tells lies.
yeah, exactly. Or it makes it up, or it thinks it actually believes itself, you know, like but yeah, so
Believes
we
its
had
own
to
marketing.
yeah, exactly. So we had to and then if you question it, it'll go, "Oh yeah, that's not right. You're right about that." You know,
It's an honest liar.
it'll acknowledge, yeah, that oh, oops, I made a mistake. It's interesting. I just used the newer version of the GPT 4.0 Mini, I think that they just came out
Mm,
with. I was
mm,
just experimenting with that. It's bad. Like it's
Um,
they should have stuck with 3.5. Like you'll ask it to do a thing in a list and then it will do it wrong and then you'll do the same, you'll spot it and you'll go, but that's not wrong. Could you do it again? And with the more advanced versions with Omni, it will correct itself and it will redo it and it will get it right the second time. But with this version, it just did it again. It just made the exact same mistake again with Mini. I mean, it's a lesser version, so you're not
right.
expecting it to be as good. But simple things like it can't count like Mini GB2 40. Like I was asking it how many things were in a list, and it came up with that, and I was like, that's not right, And it's like, apologies. Oh yeah, you're right. That's not right. And then you ask it again, and it to count it, and it will give you another wrong number. So yeah, there's some very strange. It was an interesting choice going with it. I think they've just expanded the knowledge base with it, but reduced the capability. Um, so yeah, it was an interesting choice I guess when you're offering like a lesser version of what you know is a more
Mm,
advanced model, and you're trying to backtrack it, which how you kind of set those levels. Yeah, it's an
right.
interesting problem.
Hey, how about if you've got another 10 minutes, why don't you show us how Teachers Buddy works?
Yeah, for sure. I'd love to. Um, let me
We got
share
quite a few
here.
wows last night when you shared it with our educators and leaders in New Zealand
Oh, good.
schools.
That's good to know. Let me just find it.
So, just for
Uh,
those people watching, I've shared Teachers Buddy with a number of educational leaders, and when we're doing teacher only days and our evening course as well, just for those people watching while Matt's getting ready. And when people start using it, they just are wowed by the ability to create resources quickly, to customize them and differentiate them, and also to test the different tools in the way that they will automatically pick up what's in the lesson plan and then create resources for that. And everyone's really wowed by that feature.
yeah, absolutely. So what we have here, this is Teachers Buddy. So this is what we call the dashboard area, and it's full of, so we call these workspaces, but they're basically folders of generated material. And they contain all of the generated material you can. And we're finding that people are using, you can classify these in any way you want. So when you create a new workspace, you give it a name, you select the teaching level that you want um, the generated material to be relevant for. And so people are using it like this. So year 11 art class, for example, is a good example of that. Um, I should also say that, so when you first join Teachers Buddy, when you first join, you can choose your level of organization, but so the levels of generated material, the teaching levels, primary,
Mm,
secondary, university, and it's different for different countries. And it does vary depending on the country. So when you choose your country first, then you choose your region within the country, and the curriculum that the AI will use will depend on this. And then the teaching levels are underneath that. So these levels are called different things in different countries. So if you're in the States, obviously a grading system, there are the grades system. Um, but here we have primary, secondary, university. Um, and then you can put in the subjects taught. So then if I go back, I'll just demonstrate this. So for here, we've got year 11, so we're in New Zealand. So it's set for year 11, so secondary school, and then year 11. And then you can also choose these international curricula if you want. Um, so if your school adheres to not just the national curriculum, but it's got additional curricular requirements in there, or maybe one of your classes does. So when I went to high school, we had international baccalaureate was one of the options, and it was one of the options that we could select in school if we wanted to do that. And we'll be building on that as well. So one of the new things that's coming in Teachers Buddy is the ability for schools and in the pro tier as well for you to add your own curriculum. So it will still adhere to the national curriculum or the regional curriculum that you've chosen from, but then you can add, often in New Zealand especially, we have the ability to create our own curriculum. Schools have the ability to create their own curriculums and put in the information, and we're adding in that customization ability. for schools in one of the next releases. So this is basically what TeachersBuddy is. It's a series of material that you can generate or do other things with. So for example, mark a student's work is there. You can translate material, you can generate student report, analyze sentiment. So there's lots of just non-generative. I mean, you're still generating things, but you're not generating the source work that you're doing. So we've got lesson plan as the typical one. So you'd put in year 11 art class, and we'll go with something like Picasso. And that just entering in that word as a topic, you don't need to enter in any other additional information, and you can click generate from that. But you can, if you want to connect to Google Drive or upload documents to use as source material. So if you've got existing information, existing lesson plans that you've used, it will use the information within that lesson plan and add it and generate a new lesson plan from that.
I think that's fantastic, Matt, because a lot of teachers who've been teaching for many years are concerned that AI invalidates all of the resources and pedagogical content knowledge that they might have, but it's the opposite.
Yeah, exactly right. It's only useful in as much as it's useful to you. You know, like it can be as useless or useful as you make it be. So if you don't add any information in, it will just take what you've given it. So just in this case, the name Picasso, and it will generate lesson material on it. But if you've got existing material that you've used for years that's tried and true, then you know will work, then it will use that as the base, and it will just give it a refresh on what you're doing. So this is still generating here. On the right, you can see that there's some other kind of complementary prompts. So once this is finished generating, we'll do, for example, like a worksheet. So and it will, without doing any more work than this, it will take this lesson plan, and you click on worksheet, and it will use the lesson plan that you've made to make a worksheet based on that material. So you don't need to add any additional information to it. It will just use that lesson plan, and now it's making a worksheet from this. And then, so we'll go back. Let's do just a couple more examples. Just load it in. I'll go back to the lesson plan while that worksheet is generating, and I'll generate, let's say I wanted to increase engagement of this lesson plan. Oh, that's a different one. I was wondering what that was. So that's a previous example where we've gamified that lesson plan for Picasso. So that's come up with ideas where to create games around for this lesson. I'll find the one we just made. Yeah, there's that lesson plan. So I'm going to make some slides out of this lesson plan to help me work through it. And so what will happen when I make the slides is it will generate an outline according to the lesson plan. And in here at the moment, it will just generate the headings of it. But then when we click on the slides button above, because I've connected Google Docs, it will generate the slides with all of the information in the slides. This is one we're working on at the moment as well, because we're adding things like images into here as it generates the content, and we'll add more templates for Google. So once it's generated the title, I'll show you that. So here it's generated the slides now, and we just open it from here. And there it's created a Google Slides presentation with the outline from that lesson plan that you can then edit yourself.
So it's
I mean, this is a
expanded
very
on each of those topics, Matt, for every slide.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah. It just hasn't shown it in the initial outline you produced. And this is a very basic template, so we'll be experimenting with, as I said, different templates and adding in images here. But this is, I mean, it's basically broken the back of, I mean, we use an 80-20 rule generally with AI, just as a rule of thumb, which is that it will do 80% of the work for you, but you still, that 20% that it hasn't done is that checking and making sure that it adheres to exactly what you need it for. And so here, like just in the generating of this outline, it's enough of, that would have taken much more time than the AI did to generate that. And now you can go in and edit it. And it's much easier to edit something than it is to create something. So, yeah. those are just a few examples.
So what if there's just something on that list there, one or two things that I want to dig into and go deeper? How do I have to create a whole new lesson plan based on that one particular item on the page? Or
No, so okay, so I guess let's go back to the lesson plan. Let's gamify here, the lesson plan. So let's say you wanted to expand on one of these points. Here, let's say this development area here, and you could brainstorm ideas about this particular selection. So if you there's a difference between, this is actually an important point that I need to highlight with people, and we probably need to in the interface do a better job of pointing it out, is that on the right hand side right now, as we've demonstrated, is that if you click on one of these tools, it will take this source material and all of the source material and gamify, let's say gamify all of it. But if you select these, you can see that if you notice on the right hand side, the prompts changed when I selected it. And so within that selection, I can then, let's say I wanted to expand on it. And so it will now in situ, if it's recognized that I've clicked it. It will now in situ expand it. I say, like I feel like a magic, feel like a magician whose trick just went wrong. But
can you
yeah, I
look
don't
on the
know
right
why.
hand side there where it says get creative? Could you hover your mouse
Oh,
over
there we
that?
go.
Ah,
There we go. It just it just took a long time.
okay. I
So
like that
so
case
it took.
studies one, Matt.
Sorry.
The generate case studies. That's a cool tool.
Yeah. So the on the right on the just on this one, I'll come back to case studies in a
Mm,
second, but just on the one that just happened. So I selected the 2 points that were, or 2 or 3 points that were under development,
mm,
and clicked on expand, and it's expanded on those 3 points essentially.
okay.
Um, it's pretty much done a whole new essay within that one example. So yeah. Sorry, what was the one you wanted me to look at?
Generate case studies. That would be interesting to try, and maybe in a different context. But
Yeah. Okay.
that looks interesting.
Let's do it from here. Let's go case studies. Where are you seeing case studies? Sorry, there's so
Get
many examples.
creative.
In Get Creative.
Yep, in the middle.
Oh, right there. Sorry. Looking straight at it. Generate case studies. So yeah, so again, the case studies, it will generate a list of real examples of case studies for students. Describe the topic or concept that you're working with, and be specific to get the results. So let me think of an example for a case study. So I can't think of any examples off the top of my head for a case study. What were you thinking of when you
I was thinking of maybe artists who have learned new skills because I was looking at the art one about Picasso, artists who have learned new skills and become famous.
Yeah, okay. Good. I love this exploration.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, key concept. Look at that. Oh, that's such a range of different genres or styles and a Kiwi. Really
Yeah.
good.
And it will, if you wanted to, let's say, go back and narrow those styles down. So let's say you wanted to edit the prompt that you're doing. So we've got this review prompt bar on the left. Uh, I've learnt new skills within the genre of painting, let's say. And then we'll just completely redo that prompt in the same area um, with completely different
Mm,
examples.
that's awesome. What a great productivity tool.
Yeah, it's really good. I'm really enjoying kind of running with it. I really like the product. It's in in my world, it's actually it's actually relatively rare to find a product that you work with that you really love, and this is one of them. This is it's a product I'm passionate about, and I'm passionate, that it's helping teachers and it's helping kind of reduce the workload and increase I guess the free time that teachers might have, and or kind of redirect that time into other
Mm.
areas that are uh, more about actually educating kids.
Matt, are there some secret developments in the pipeline that you feel comfortable sharing with us?
Yeah, so I love this question. So we've got some really exciting ones. So we're working on mobile at the moment. I'll stop sharing. Uh, we're working on mobile development at the moment. So that will give us all the option to have what we call an OCR reader in there. So you can take a picture of, for example, a student's work and upload that as an image into TeachersBuddy, and the AI will then work with that. So let's say they've got an assignment that they've written out or they've typed out. You take a picture of that, it will upload it, and you can grade it from there. We've got the
Wow.
customization I was talking about. So we've got the customizations for schools and pro tier users that you'll be able to add your own curriculum information. You'll be able to add your own background school information separate to the curriculum information. And you'll be able to add your own marking rubrics. So we've got in here, so when you mark a student's work, you go in and you can choose from a selection in the drop down of marking rubrics. They're just standard marking rubrics that you can use. But with the new development, you'll be able to add your own school's rubric in there that you use for marking, and it will add it to the drop down, and then it will grade it according to that. We've got school branding coming in as well. So schools can add in their own colors and their own logos up the top. Yeah, and images are coming in. We're working on that at the moment. I mentioned that with the Google Slides, more enhancements with Google Slides, more integrations with the spreadsheets and things like that that are coming up. Yeah, lots of exciting stuff. We've got a very long list of of backlog items that we're working through.
Fantastic. So if teachers or schools want to explore that with you, what's the best way for them to reach out?
Yeah, so just email me, I think is probably the easiest way to do it. So it's just matt@teachersbuddy.com, and the website is just teachersbuddy.com. Yeah, be really
Exciting.
keen to hear from anybody.
Matt, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Thanks, Greg.